welcome back to Naya50. Today I have my January book haul, and of course I have a giant book outlet box here that has been, oh, some books just fell out. I was originally going to call this video a Shadowhunter re-buy book haul video, but obviously that's just like way too long. The majority of the books that I have here are books that I've already read, but I just never owned because I either read it, I borrowed the book from the library or read it in ebook form. As always, thank you so much to Book Outlet. If you guys didn't know, I'm a vlogger fan of Book Outlet, so there'll be a link down below to where you can see all these books and check them out on their website. And one more additional thing, I have an awesome coupon code for you guys, which I will talk about in a second. As you guys know, I recently read Lady Midnight, and after I read that book, I was just like back in the world of Cassandra Clare, and I realized there were so many books that I hadn't read of Cassandra Clare's. Next book here is a novella bind-up of one specific character. Have not read this one yet. It's the Vile Chronicles by Cassandra Clare, novella bind-up of Magnus Bane, and just this entire book is about him and his travels with Alec, I believe. This came out, I think, in like 2015, but I just didn't read it until I read Lady Midnight, and I was like, you know what, I cannot wait for Lord of Shadows to come out, so I'm gonna read everything that I haven't read, all the novellas and all that kind of stuff. So I have the Vile Chronicles, and I'm gonna have a whole shelf, not like these ones, but the one over there that you can't see, dedicated to like Cassandra Clare books. Like literally her books already take up like one whole shelf on my white bookshelf. So Book Outlet gave me this really awesome coupon code just for you guys, so only you guys know about it, or I guess whoever watches this video knows about it. If you guys are interested in getting the Vile Chronicles, you know, if you guys are like me and you're on like a Shadowhunter like kind of rampage right now, but this book will be 50% off starting today, January 19th at 12 p.m. Eastern time, all the way until Saturday, so only for 48 hours. You guys can get this book for 50% off. If you're in the US, you can use the code Naya50. If you're in Canada though, you have to use the code Naya50 CAD, and it's only on the hardback copy. So excited to read this one. Since we're still talking about Shadowhunters, I got two more Cassandra Clare books, and I just realized that I grabbed two different editions of a book in the same series. So for you guys seeing this, you guys might be like, oh my god, like how could you do that? But for me, like, I don't really care if like the books match or are the same height or anything. I mean, obviously you can see it's just like a mess back. Clockwork Prince and Clockwork Princess, and they literally 2 seconds before I went to check out my cart, the very last copy of Clockwork Angel sold out a minute before I checked out my cart. Otherwise, I would have had the whole series, and if you guys can see what I mean here, this is like the new edition of the Infernal Devices book, and this is like the old edition, which I originally wanted everything in the old edition. This is like cringe-worthy to you guys right now. And now I just need one more, and my collection of Shadowhunter books will be complete. Actually, I still need the Shadowhunters Codex, I think, and I think there's one more thing. On to books that I haven't read that I purchased. Jane Steele, a novel by Lindsay Fay. Cover immediately drew me to this book on the website, but this book sounds so interesting. So this book is about a girl, she's an orphan, and she grew up with her kind of like really mean, cruel aunt and I think step cousin or something like that. She left home pretty early, and then she gets a letter telling her that her aunt and her cousin died. So now the house that she grew up in when she was younger that belonged to her aunt belongs to some new mysterious person. She's really curious to see who's living in her old house, and the person who lives in her house now is looking for, what is it called, a wardess to look after his niece or nephew or daughter or something like that. So she applies for the job and ends up living back in her old house again with like this new family and like all these mysterious people that live in the house now, and she discovers some pretty dark stuff in the house, and just like it just sounds so cool. Never heard of this book before, but it sounds interesting, and it's supposed to be somewhat of like a Jane Eyre retelling, I believe. I don't know for sure, don't quote me on that. Next book I got is one that literally I've been wanting to read forever and is so like old. This is a book that was kind of either people really loved it or really hated it. Throwback to the Coldest Girl in Cold Town by Holly Black. I have still yet to read a Holly Black book. I have, what book do I have? The Darkest Part of the Forest, and so now this is my second Holly Black book that I own that I have not read, but this book is like a vampire book that I believe takes place in a world where like there's towns, and then within those towns there's like cold towns, which are like walled in areas where like vampires and kind of like creatures live or something, because apparently once you go into a cold town you cannot get out of it, which sounds terrifying to be trapped with a bunch of vampires. It just sounds really interesting, and I love vampires. Like, I'm a sucker for vampires. Get it? Okay, that was a terrible joke. But anyway, so I'm so excited to read this, and I don't know, I've never read a Holly Black book, and I got to meet her and she seemed awesome and like someone who would write an awesome book. The next 3 books I got are the 3 books in one of my favorite series of all time, and this series just like literally was my soul for a good 3 years. Whole Delirium series by Lauren Oliver. We have Delirium, Pandemonium, and Requiem. If you guys have not read the Delirium series, like, oh my god, like I can't even explain how amazing this series is. It's a dystopian series about the society where love is considered a disease, and when you reach a certain age you get a procedure that takes away your ability to love, which is like the cruelest thing ever. Such an amazing book, and I just remember being like just dying when the last book came out, and I finished it and I went back and read the last book from the beginning again because I just couldn't accept that it was over. And I finally own all 3 books. I borrowed it from the library originally, so I have it now and I can just touch it and just hold it. And just so. I also got one more Lauren Oliver book that I read that I did like, but it wasn't as good as the Delirium series for me. Before I Fall by Lauren Oliver. I got this because the movie is coming out and I want to reread it before the movie comes out because I read this book, I kid you not, probably like 3 years ago or something like that. But I remember liking the book, but being a little disappointed because I expected it to be as amazing as the Delirium series. Nevertheless, I want to go back and reread it so I can compare it and criticize it compared to the movie adaptation. Next book I got is a book I have not read, but I have been recommended so many times, and I've watched so many reviews on this, and I've watched so many people just rave about it, and I want to be one of those people. A Darker Shade of Magic by V.E. Schwab. Okay, after I got this book, I put okay, both the first book and the second book were on Book Outlet. As soon as I went to check out, again, the second book got sold out like literally 2 seconds before I went to go and buy it. So I only got the first book, but I meant to get both books so I can just like binge read them back to back. So this book has to do with parallel worlds, which is just like, I'm sold. Like, the last 2 books I got is again a series that I've wanted to read so bad, and this one's a bit controversial, and I'm still kind of confused about what it is about this series that's controversial. I think it's some of the content and the way people are portrayed in this book, but nevertheless I wanted to read it for myself. I know some people just like love this book, and some people just hate this book, and some people are just, it's kind of like a controversial book at the same time. I've been wanting to read it forever just so that I can like have my own opinion about it. First 2 books in the Exquisite Captive series. So that in this book there's 2 worlds. There's like the genie world and there's like Earth, right? So this book follows our main character. She's a genie and she gets captured and sold as like a slave to Earth. Like how a genie's trapped in a bottle and they have to grant you 3 wishes if you let them out. So in this book it takes that idea, but in this book like the genies are pretty much prisoners and they're from a different world and they're actual like, you know, beings and people. This girl was captured and she is now forced to grant wishes now for this really bad person, and she's trying to figure out a way to escape. It sounds really interesting, and I've never read a book where the main character is a genie. So like I said, I got the first 2 books. We'll see how they are. Thank you guys so much for watching. Until next time, keep reading, and I'll talk to you guys later. Bye!